Hey food enthusiasts, I'm Glenjamin from ScreenGeek, and I'm super excited to bring you our very first episode of Food IQ, where we are going to use science to answer all of your cooking questions. That's a great question. See, one of the things that we know is that when we eat with our eyes just as much as we eat with our mouth and our nose. Visually appealing food just tastes better. It's a fact. And we know this because Oxford did a study where they had people eat food that was exactly the same, but one looked really good and one looked sort of okay. And overwhelmingly, people said that the food that looked good tasted better, and they also said they would pay more money for it. So what we have here is an example of a caprese salad, like you might get if you go over to your friend's house, or you might make it for a date that you have coming over. But let's see if we can use some science to make it look better and taste better. So the first thing we want to talk about is your plate. Now, places like Alinea, they can afford to have someone come in, build them some custom piece of plating that's perfect for the dish that they're trying to make. You and I, we don't have the ability to do that. So we want to try and get the best plate we can for the least amount of money. We want to go to swap meets, garage sales, Target, IKEA, where we can find some funky dishes that you can pick up for a couple of dollars, buy one or two of them, bring them home, and see if they inspire you to make something cool. You want to stick with high contrast colors like blacks and whites. Don't do bone, off-white, ecru, anything that's made up like that. Now let's talk about sauces. Now, they're the few tools that you'll need when it comes to laying down sauces. A good spoon and a squeeze bottle. The problem with most sauces, though, is that when you put them down, they get a little runny. So in order to fix that, let me introduce you to my buddy, xanthan gum. You've probably seen this on a list of ingredients from dairy products and baked goods, Pop-Tarts, stuff like that. So xanthan gum is a common ingredient that's used a lot in molecular gastronomy. So when they make cheese, they get about a pound of cheese and they end up with about 9 pounds of whey. They'll add some microbes to that whey and it'll eat away at it just like in fermentation. And what they end up with is 7 pounds of xanthan gum. Now it works at a ratio of about 1%. What that means is if you had 100 grams of a liquid, it would effectively take 1 gram of xanthan gum to turn it into a gel. So xanthan gum has tons of loose hydrogen atoms that are just begging to bond with something. And when you mix it in with something, those hydrogen atoms start locking up. You can break their existing chains by whisking it or blending it, and it'll reform into a stronger structure. So what we want to do is take our liquid and we're going to pour it into a bowl. So here I'm using that runny balsamic that we had before, and I'm just going to use a very small amount of this xanthan gum. You'll see this is 1/8 of a teaspoon, and we're going to dump that in there. I'm going to take a whisk. So as we do that, what's happening is we're shearing the bond, we're breaking it, and as we do that more, it's going to start to create a stronger structure. So we just want to give it a good stir until you've broken all the clumps up and then let it sit for a few minutes. Now we have a couple of heirloom tomatoes and a few tomatoes on the vine. Chop them up, throw them in a food processor. And what we're gonna have is a pretty runny mess. So we're gonna want to strain this and mix in some xanthan gum to give us a nice smooth sauce. Okay, so we're gonna take our bowl, take our strainer, our blended tomatoes, pour those in, back of a spatula or spoon, sort of work that through, and now you have some liquidy tomato sauce. So now we're ready to plate. We've got all of our ingredients laid out. We have some basil, we have some mozzarella pearls, we have our thickened balsamic vinegar, we have a little olive oil, we have our heirloom tomatoes, and we have our vine tomatoes in the bottle. Give it some abstractness. And take a couple of basil leaves, plate them, a little bit of our yellow puree, some balsamic, use it, place some dots And you'll notice they stick together now because of the xanthan gum. Aren't running all over the plate. And we'll take a little bit of olive oil. And there we go. A modernist version of a caprese salad. If you have any questions about cooking or how to solve a problem in your kitchen, let's use science to solve it. Send us your question and it might be featured on a future episode.